And a new study has confirmed what many small to medium-sized businesses have long suspected. They're doing it tough. JP Morgan and Fujitsu Consulting have been looking at the demand for credit by the SME sector. They found risk is making borrowing more expensive and difficult, which is holding back the sector's recovery. Andrew Robertson reports.
Small to medium-sized business is an engine room of the economy. It provides the income for 3 million Australian households, and if credit growth in the sector is any guide, the good times haven't yet returned.
The SME sector is going to probably bounce along the bottom for the next little while. I don't think that the economic recovery that we're seeing in some other sectors are anything like as clear in this sector.
Fujitsu and JP Morgan have teamed up for their 4th annual detailed study of the SME market. What they've found is that so far small business is missing out on most of the fruits of Australia's post-GFC economic growth.
One of the main reasons is just pricing power. So if you look at the profitability of large businesses, they have recovered to a greater degree than small businesses. So that may indicate that they are pushing down some of the pressure that they're experiencing a bit further down the supply chain.
And for small businesses wanting to expand to join in the economic recovery, asking their bank for help is continuing to be a painful experience.
The supply of credit into the banks is still flowing, but it is at a price. And as a consequence, banks need to continue to price the credit that they extend accordingly. And they're sending that risk-adjusted pricing signal to the SMEs.
Which means small business is paying higher interest rates and having at times onerous conditions imposed on their borrowing, a point the Reserve Bank noted in the statement accompanying its decision to keep interest rates unchanged for the 2nd consecutive month. RBA Governor Glenn Stevens making the point that credit conditions for some sectors remain difficult. Fujitsu's Martin North says many small business owners mistake banks' newfound aversion to risk as a deliberate form of credit rationing.
The fact is the world changed in 2007 and the financial sector is still trying to come to understand what is the right point at which to take a risk and a return for that risk. The fact is it's a very complex and difficult thing to work through. Many small business people that we spoke with understand that prices have gone up, but they don't really understand why.
And to make matters worse, renewed concerns about the health of banks in Europe are pushing up borrowing costs right around the world.
We're certainly seeing banks paying around about 130 basis points, that's 1.3% over the base rate at the moment for borrowing in various markets, which is a lot higher than it was 6 or so months ago.
Add to that the still aggressive competition among banks for deposits, and Peter Van thinks there'll only be one outcome.
The banks can pass some of that increased borrowing cost through to non-mortgage accounts, but it appears to me that the banks are having increased pressure to pass some of that through to mortgage accounts to reflect the true cost of the banks doing business at this junction in time.
Which is code for banks lifting their mortgage lending rates outside the Reserve Bank's movements in the official cash rate. The big question is, when?
I think this will be somewhat of a political issue, and it will probably start, at least in the mortgage section, after the election.
Which, given the impact that rising interest rates have already had on consumers, will also be further bad news for business.